Hello, welcome everybody. This is the women's game and we are live. This is our first TWG After Dark, everybody. It is 12:38 a.m. officially Thursday. It's minutes after the final whistle of the USA versus Japan. She Believes showdown. Japan was able to win this game 2-1. So Japan wins the tournament. They went undefeated and they had a great tournament. They dominated game after game. I am so happy to be joined tonight by Angel City and New Zealand national team defender Allie Riley. Allie, hi. I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I'm very impressed that you were able to stay up and be so pumped up because I'm so excited. I do have my pajama bottoms on, so it's kind of like a, business on the top, sleep on the bottom situation. This is nearing my bedtime, but this game, I'm like still like from the game. So, so much to discuss.
It was a game and a half. We have so much to discuss. I am going to immediately call you out that you had on a U.S. jersey earlier. I saw you, and now you have on a Japan jersey.
Okay, hear me out. I am a national team player for another country. So like, it's not like I'm like and I do want to shout out that New Zealand beat Costa Rica yesterday, and that was huge. And I'm very proud of the girlies. But yes, once I saw that Miyabi was playing, I was like, okay, I wore the Thompson jersey for most of the day at halftime. I got and we got June injured. I'm going to represent. And I just thought when they won and had such a great tournament that I would wear it on the show. So
you know what, Allie, I came in hot with that. I respect it. It looks incredible. I am happy for Japan. They deserved it. We're going to get into the game. Before we get into, the beginning of this game, talk through the whole tournament, I do just want to acknowledge, Allie, you've been on such an incredible roller coaster the last few months. You have been dealing with this long-term injury, the fires in LA, saw your family home burned to the ground, to your beautiful wedding. There's so many ups and downs, happy thing, sad thing. And I've been following from afar, and I know that our whole TWG community is sending you and your family lots of love and support during this time. How are you doing in general?
Well, thank you. And you're so sweet. And it meant a lot when you reached out and Raj reached out. And the whole family has felt so supported and loved during this. I'm good, mostly because my parents are just the most positive and resilient and strong, amazing people. I already knew that, but I had never seen them. We're very lucky. I had never seen them face something like this before. Thank God. But they are just in such good spirits. They're treating this like this big adventure and mooching off all their friends who are very happy to spend time with them. And they want to be around people. And we had them sleep over here with me and Lucas last week. And it made my day to spend time with them. And just knowing that they're okay helps me a lot. And I'm still navigating this injury. I'm not going to give up. I have a little bit of renewed hope, trying a different treatment, but taking it very, very slow. So I feel very lucky to have Lucas, and we had the wedding of our dreams, minus the fact that the city was on fire.
I know.
So much love. And yeah, it is a lot, but it's like life. And I have had so much support from everyone, everywhere, every day. And I feel very lucky.
Well, we feel so lucky to have you on here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
This made my week.
Okay, I'm so excited. We're sending you so much love, Allie. We're so happy to have you here. Okay, everybody, if you didn't know, this is the TWG Live. We're so excited. It is TWG After Dark. This is going to be crazy. We're going to react to this game live. We're going to have Allie answer all of our questions. But let me just explain the show tonight really quick. You, our listeners, are here with us live. You can ask us questions about football or life. You can talk in the chat. If you want to call in later in the show and talk to Allie and I, scan the QR code in the top left of your screen. It will take you into a Zoom with our producer, Tony. Tony will get you set up to ask your question. It's just audio. Don't be worried. You're not going to be on screen. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes, but go ahead and get in line now. Make sure you get your question in there. If you don't want to ask a question, do us a huge favor and just give us a like. If you haven't already, also hit that subscribe button. Join us on this channel. I see some of you in the chat already. Let's see. We have got some crazy comments in here. All right, everybody. I'm going to come back to the comments later because I did not see any that jumped out at me, everybody. Okay, first, Allie, let's just take a little bit of stock as to how we got to this point in the tournament. So last week, we beat Colombia 2-0. Then on Sunday, we beat Australia 2-1. Both previous performances for this U.S. women's national team were solid. We got to see lots of new faces. And I would say I got so much hope looking ahead for this US program in the future. We're coming off this Olympics. I already had hope, but it was just so fun to see all these new players perform so well. Japan, on the other hand, was also able to beat these same opponents and by larger margins. They beat Colombia 4-1, Australia 4-0. So we knew that heading into tonight's game, this was kind of like a final, but the US needed to beat Japan in order to win the tournament based on that goal differential. Allie, what were you expecting coming into the game? And did tonight live up to the hype?
So you and I were texting back and forth about would there be this late night after dark energy?
Yeah.
I knew there would be goals, and I had a good feeling with the form Japan was on that they would score a goal. Was I expecting that early goal? No, and how that would kind of create this dynamic that would really affect the rest of the game. I thought the US would come out on their toes really strong and maybe put some of that pressure on Japan. But I'm so impressed by Japan, by the way they find those gaps and just those pockets of space. And I think, again, I mean, Sentner's finish was really, really good. And I loved seeing Alyssa come on. I know we're going to get to all of this later, but it was very exciting the whole way through. And I thought they were gonna pull back at least one, to be honest.
I know. The end for sure had me on the edge of my seat. I was like kind of trying to come in here and get ready to do this show. And I was watching the TV and I was like, oh, did we get it? Was Jenna offside? I don't know. I think the game definitely lived up to the hype of this is the She Believes showdown. Was the US going to win? I feel like the game was a great game and a great showcase of both teams. I want to talk about the US lineup. Almost exactly the same as the first lineup that we saw this tournament, except Crystal Dunn slid into left back instead of Jenna Neiswanger. Jane Campbell was back in goal. We certainly had some veteran leadership out there with Lindsay Heaps, Emily Sonnet, but still a lot of fresh faces like Ali Sentnor, who's made such an impact this tournament, Yasmin Ryan up top, Lila Johannes in the midfield, Tara McCown at center back. Ali, you've played against the U.S. women's national team so many times in your career with New Zealand. But this lineup is a little bit unique. Imagine you're playing against this lineup. How do you think that would feel?
I think playing in the league, there are a lot of recognizable youth. Like, I know the youth talent in this country, but I think it does give the U.S. an edge because when you play against some of the veterans, or I guess not even my age, still younger than me, but you know kind of the tendencies, a little bit of the style. But these players, I mean, every time I see Lily play, I see another, like, more depth to her. You see, we don't know yet the kind of go-to move or the 1v1 move that someone likes. And now we saw Sentner is very, very versatile and can go outside, can go inside. Her finish, so I think we're still seeing Giselle and Alyssa, what they can bring in different spaces when they decide to carve inside, when they want to go end line. And so I think that is something that gives the US an edge. And then, I mean, when you have Lynn able to come on, the depth that the US has, it's just, instead of young players coming on, you're like, oh crap, it is this very well-established, very talented veteran player coming on. It's different.
It's not a step down at all. The bench is not the B team. Like, the bench is super strong. And to your point that you made earlier, there was this play that we scored off of in the Australia game where Emma Sears, who was just coming off her rookie season in Louisville, is up against this world-renowned defender in Ellie Carpenter. And Emma Sears kind of cut her inside, was able to turn and play her outside. It was a great matchup all game. I'm not by any means saying that Emma Sears had Ellie Carpenter's number. I'm saying that Ellie Carpenter has never played against her and maybe didn't know or understand any of her tendencies or what she might be like as a forward. And that gave Emma Sears kind of an edge on a few of those plays. And so I think for Japan coming into this game in a similar spot of, well, who's starting? We have no idea because we just saw this US team totally flip-flop their lineup. And to be a little bit less familiar with some of these players, it's great for the US. It's great for these players to have these opportunities. And I think it would be a little bit off-putting to be coming out against this team where for years and years and years, we've kind of known what to expect. And now there's suddenly this kind of new era. Obviously, this is another big point they were making on the broadcast. Japan has come out really quickly in both previous games this tournament. They scored literally remember in their game against Colombia, the first play of the game, this ball's in the back of the net. Colombia was like, pardon? And then they actually scored in the 6th minute against Australia. And they came out hot today. They scored in the 2nd minute. And I think that just that early pressure really kind of shocked us, put us on our back foot a little bit. Momiki made a dangerous run into our box, received a pass right at the corner of the 6th. And then, unfortunately, Jane Campbell and Emily Son kind of collided, and Momiki was able to spin around and finish that chance off. And I wanted to ask you about this, Allie, specifically as a defender who, leads the back line, prides yourself and the team on shutouts and live backline organization. What would this feel like to concede this early? Would that be just so deflating as a defender?
It's so frustrating because, you always say the first 5 minutes of the game, the first 5 minutes after a goal is scored, the first 5 minutes of a half, like there's these key moments where a lot of goals are scored and you're like, damn it, we're another statistic, So there is that frustration because you come out at the beginning of a game, you have this opportunity to set a tone, to have the right mentality. And I think with this type of goal, it wasn't like a in possession mistake that would like shake you or rattle you. I think it was really like, okay, it came from a Japanese throw in. We need to be on our toes. They're so quick at getting in the right positions. They're so fluid in the attack. They have all of these options. Our gaps are too big. And so I think it did help the US tighten up out of possession, because you definitely saw after that goal, there were more interceptions. You saw Sonnet and Mikion actually intercept some of these through balls because it was like, oh, we need to be tighter. We need to keep these gaps smaller. Right. So I think you can get deflated. And it depends on what team you're on. With the US, I wouldn't be like, oh no, we're done for with 89 minutes left to play. Right. You know that you can score goals. But I think in this case, because those players are very strong mentally, it would be just more of a little reminder how good Japan is, what they're going to be looking for. And how they scored was exactly their tendencies. And then I do think the US were able to tighten it up.
Totally. I think also, like, speaking of Japan's tendencies, Julie Foudy brought this up in the broadcast, that I think like the style of this Japan team that we've seen at last summer's Olympics and at the World Cup in 2023 was they were bringing like this lethal counterattack, and maybe even having less possession than you or I in our history. And, traditionally playing against Japan, these more recent iterations of the team have shown this transitional style that's been so effective. But of course, they have not won either of those tournaments. But it felt like at this, She Believes, that Japan was not just back to, keeping great possession, playing through those lines really well, really organized, but now also they have this transitional element. And I'm kind of like, hang on, Japan, we're not ready for this. They have such intelligent tactical movement that the thought of having them pair that with this really dangerous transition and counterattack is so scary, because they're already so difficult to play against. What is it that you think makes Japan so singular and so like uniquely difficult to play against?
I think it is their fluidity. I think it is the overlapping, the underlapping. You have the player on the ball has so many options, and they recognize the options so quickly. So it doesn't take time for the runs to come to make a decision. It happens so quick. And so you step to someone, they've already played to somebody else. And then, like you say, they also have this dynamic now. They're moving so quickly in the counter, and with the types of crosses they put in, and they are good in the air. It was talked about so much when they played Australia, like Australia is going to have the one up on them because of their aerial presence, and Japan scored headers. Like, they just bring so much to the table. But I think when you're trying to defend and they can play to the left of you, to the right of you, they can scoop one over the top, knowing that their first touch is so good. And now too, how fast they get up, they also recovered so quickly. Because I was starting to say, why isn't the US taking advantage of a counter? And if they played one slow pass or one pass and someone didn't decide to go straight to goal, you suddenly had them all sprinting back and recovering. So I think maybe their fitness too is like just unreal.
I know. I think that's a really great point that we will definitely circle back to at the end, because I'm with you that at the end of the game, when we're down a goal, I'm like, guys, we have to go. But to your point, Allie, it wasn't really on to go. Like, they were recovering so well. So Japan really just checking a lot of boxes, good on so many levels. Obviously not ideal for the US to go down a goal early. That was not in anybody's plan. But we did answer quickly in the 14th minute. Kat Macario was able to check in off the line, get herself turned around her defender, kind of as like we call it a false 9 or a withdrawn 9 position. And that's what I want to ask you about that, Allie. She turned her player, played Allie Setnor in behind the back line. Allie received the pass, buried at far post. A really positive response from the US and an opportunity for us to reset and breathe and, not be chasing the game from down a goal again. Allie Setnor has been a huge presence for this team this tournament. Her instincts around goal seem to be really spot on. But what I want to talk about is how Kat's movement, checking off the back line as that 9 and drawing a Japanese center back with her, opened up space and gaps in that back line for Allie Setnor to make that central run cutting in from the wing. Can you just talk us through that from the back line's perspective? What are they supposed to do? Kat executed that so well. Is there an answer, or was this just like really great play from Kat and Allie?
I think it's one of the few times we did see Japan's backline stretched because they're so organized. They're so compact. I think that's why Emma wanted to change things up and have a little bit more width with Niswanger, with Alyssa. In that case, when the timing was so good for her to draw her out and then for Setnor to get on that wrong side of the fullback because she was so central, and her first touch too, it was a little bit big, but she's so dynamic, she's so quick, and her finish was so good. So I think you have to be, as a defender, it's one of those times where you almost have to predict what's going to happen, that someone drags you in, so you start closing in, but there's always a risk if you do something before it actually happens. And so that's why it's just such good timing on their part. And Macario, her touch, the precision, everything, it was such a good play. And that was the interesting thing where I see not only Japan evolving their game a little bit, but also this is a different US than, those of us gals in our mid to late 30s. You're seeing these US players have very, very good technique. Similar, like there were moments in the game where the US was playing almost like this technical tiki-taka, playing one, getting around the other, like Japan was doing. But then I was like, wait, but now Japan is having this fast counterattack that the US
we used to do.
Yes. So I was like, this is like the metaverse. I don't know. But that play was beautiful.
That's so actually really fascinating to think about, just the evolution of teams, the evolution of the game, where now teams are becoming more well-rounded and like maybe stereotypically of the US team, athletic, they pump it long, they serve cross in the box, isn't necessarily true anymore, which I definitely don't think is true anymore.
Yeah.
But similarly with Japan, where it's like they've always relied on this technical playing through the lines possession, and they're developing this new kind of branch of their style of play. It's incredible to think about where the game can go as teams evolve and grow their identities. I want to go back to Kat, who has been extremely productive. We've missed her while she's been in and out of being injured, but she's always involved in goals when she gets time with this US Women's National Team. And I do think that she brings a unique player profile and style to that 9 position than many of our other options. She has that skill set. She has that versatility that just give us options in the middle of the field. Can we play short and be technical and do little passes around the top of the box? Can she find an angle to check back and turn? Can she play that final pass through? I think that Kat's versatility and tactical awareness is just so elevated and so smart. What I'm wondering about is who's the right player profile to pair with Kat. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking now about that like 9-10 combination. With Kat's player profile, what style of 10 do you think offers the most complementary partnership?
Oh, it's so hard. Emma Hayes is so spoiled for choice in this. Yeah. And especially with Kat kind of just coming back in, and now with our 3 faves, triple espresso, not being in this tournament.
I know.
But they played together more. So it will be really fun to see. And let's be honest, there is time. Of course, I know the US wants to win every single game, but really we've got 2027 is the big exciting thing on the horizon.
Yeah.
And so I think it really depends on how Emma wants to play in the opposition, because I think that is why those changes to have a 9 that's maybe going to stretch a little bit more, to start having those longer balls come in the second half. That's where you need a different type of 9. But if you want to play Kat to feet, you want to get her turn moving forward, and then you kind of need a 10 who's then going to make the third man run. You need,
I know.
And I don't know, and Rose can do, I mean, there's so many options, but I think it just depends then if you're going to have a 10 maybe running into a channel, make the third man run. If you're going to have Kat checking, then who's going to be in the box? Who is going to be the one to attack the crosses? And so that's where all of that kind of, then you need those dynamic wingers who are going to be getting back post, getting for a cross. So there's so many pieces there that depend or will be affected by the 9-10 combo. But it was so interesting seeing this combination against Japan, because it was this kind of technical style against the very technical Japanese. And I was expecting a little more run and gun, just because of how the two teams I thought would match up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think a couple of things you said. Emma is spoiled for choice when everybody's back and healthy. She is going to have so many combinations of options available. And this is something that Becky Sauerbrunn and I were talking about on our most recent episode of Good Vibes, which comes out on Tuesdays, is that it's not just to, Emma's not just developing this next tier of players and these new combinations of players in case of injury, though, of course, that will be so helpful if inevitably, unfortunately, injuries happen. But the chemistry and the tactic, the game plan against certain opposition will require different combinations of players. And if you have 3 or 4 different combinations of Kat, Sophia Wilson, Mal, Rose, Lindsay, in this 9-10, Lynn Biondolo, in this 9-10 position, you can make a sub to win a game that you're down a goal. You can start a combination of players that will be more likely to check back and wingers that will be more likely to run in. You can change what you're doing based on your opposition and be the most effective for every game. And I just feel like that kind of depth and like development of relationships, development of talent is such a luxury that we're just really starting to crack into. I think generally in the first half, Japan looked a bit more sophisticated on both sides of the ball, which again is probably to be expected. This Japanese roster has been together pretty consistently since the Olympics, whereas ours is fairly new. I think in some moments we just weren't able to connect the progressive pass that would have broken pressure for us. We got into kind of this lull after we scored that comeback goal. And it was just due to Japan's pressure and organization. I think Japan's attack overwhelmed our midfield at times. Our sixes seemed a little bit disjointed, getting split with passes, chasing back. And I have been there. It is not fun. Like that.
Me too.
Doing a job is like literally so horrible. And I have been trying to convey this feeling to our audience as we've been approaching this Japan game. And I keep just saying, Allie, like your calves just get tired and then you go into survival mode. And then I think it becomes this vicious cycle where when you do regain possession, you're actually too tired to make a good decision moving forward. So you lose it again and then you're chasing again. How would you describe this feeling of just being overwhelmed by the opposition?
I think what it felt like was happening, which it could be totally kind of subconscious, is that the US, because they went so long without having the ball, that when they got the ball, whether it's like the fatigue or it's this, do I want to do a risky, do I want to go too fast? Because if we lose it again, we're going to go so long without having the ball again. And I don't see the US in that position almost ever. And so that is that's a different state of game and a different mental state.
And it takes us away from maybe that part of our identity. That's like, we're transitioning, let's go. We hesitate and then it's not on.
Exactly. And you saw it more and more as the game went on when they're down by 1 and it's like, now we have to score 2. But I think that was this just hesitancy, or it just felt like if that stray pass went, then it was like, because now we're going to have to go side to side and up and back. And Japan, they're so smart. Sometimes they do a quick pass and and then they'd go back and they'd switch it and then they turn it on again. And so it's not just side to side. It's also up and back. And then we're moving fast. And yes, the calves is definitely a calf.
The calves, the
Yeah.
freaking calves.
Yeah.
And then your player gets the ball, and then she's behind you, and then she passes it back, and
Yeah.
then you're backpedaling.
And then you're talking the whole time too, trying to, or you should be. But that's a lot for all the players to be directing the people in front of them over and over and over again. And they just kept finding those gaps. And I think that was one thing, and you could hear Emma saying it, and they were saying it on the broadcast, when Japan would make the rare missed pass, when the US would then give it back again, you're like, this is the time to keep it for a little bit. And once that happened a couple of times, it just felt like it was creeping in a little bit into the vibes.
Yeah, totally agree. And that definitely led to this feeling. Yes, Japan had the upper hand in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to make some subs at halftime. And again, kind of going back to this depth, despite this US team, again, I'm reminding everybody, we were without 5 probable starters: Triple Espresso, Naomi Girma, Rose Lavelle. In case anybody doesn't know who Triple Espresso is, it's Trinity Rodman, Sophia Wilson, and Mallory Swanson. So with this depth, halftime, we were able to sub in Jaden Shaw and Jenna Nicewanger. But then, unfortunately, again, very early on in the second half, Japan earned a free kick within shooting distance. Hasegawa took the free kick, forced Jane Campbell to make a save. But it was a great shot. It rebounded, and Kogo was able to get in there first to finish it. And then just as a reminder, I mentioned this at the beginning, we came into this game needing to win. So that now we're in a hole. We're down 2-1, but we actually need 2 goals in the last 40 minutes. And this is what would this feel? I mean, it's a tough spot to be in. It feels like a bigger mountain to climb than it is. How do you think the US team responded to this?
Especially when you've just made changes that were hopefully going to ramp something up and it was going to start differently. And then again, another goal conceded in that 5-minute window. And it's just so fun. It's like this, it's this cliche, but we all like, it is so true that those times are just such common times to concede. And I will say it was a great first save. Like that is, and that's that from one Jane. Where yes, it just to sprint back and I was just thinking about how the US was set up, and I would have to see it again, but you are, if it's central like that, you are going to leave the widest players. So I'm like, should there have been a mark there? But I do think Japan was quicker to respond. And that's the same from the beginning, like just being on their toes. And so I think with that, again, there's still so much time left. You're looking over I'm like, is Michelle Cooper going to come on, or the Thompson? Like there's so many options. But I did feel like with Jaden, it still wasn't going to be like, let's launch it, let's go more direct. I knew there was going to be a little bit more width, but I was still, when the US would get into the final third, I'm still like, what is the change here now that we need to see urgency? And I didn't really see the urgency until a little bit later with Alyssa. I know I'm going to talk about the Thompsons a lot because
this is literally my next question.
Family.
I'm so excited you brought this up because this is my next question. We saw some more subs. This was just like maybe the 58th minute. Lindy Andolo, Alyssa Thompson, and Corbin Albert subbed on. And to your point, Allie, this was a clear tactical change now. Yes, we made 2 subs at halftime, maybe slight adjustments, but this was Lynn and Alyssa are coming in. We're using their speed. We're using their aggressiveness moving forward. We want to open up the game and use their instincts with like getting in behind and create, some more crosses. Even Lynn's presence in there to finish headers, to finish anything scrappy in the box. She's just the quickest one to the ball. Talk to us about Alyssa. Alyssa Thompson is your Angel City teammate. She subs on. Were you so happy? Were you too tense in the game? How do you feel? Does she feel like your little sister? Tell us everything.
She does. They both do. And I was really excited. I thought this is the player to sub on. And I loved when she got the ball. In the beginning, I'm like, okay, she's looking to combine. Everyone's still looking to combine. Let's go. And so when she finally did that one play where she just drove forward, and I think it ended up with either a corner or a free kick, I can't remember, and then we're seeing Lindsay Heaps get further up the field, and I'm like, this is where we want to be playing. Let's get corners. Let's get free kicks. And so I like to see her turn it on. She definitely got end line a couple times. The crosses didn't necessarily go where they wanted it to, but it's putting pressure on Japan.
Right.
And so I liked that. And Sonnet hit one beautiful long ball. And again, you don't win the first ball, but then it landed right at the midfield's feet. And then we're going again. And so I wanted to see a little bit more of that, because I just thought with Alyssa's speed and Lynn's speed and just the presence in the box that maybe the US could start playing higher up. But that's also the problem when Japan would win it. And then it would just feel like it deflated the US over and over again, because then they get it, ding, 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 ding. Everyone's sprinting back. And let's go back to the center back now. Let's do ding, ding, ding. Like it was art. They did such a good job managing it, even when the US did start to have more urgency.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think even what you're saying about like Sonnet played a long ball and maybe it didn't come off, but then the second ball gave us, it's the same thing Japan had been doing, where it's like when you have them under pressure, when you have them performing a lot of these physical actions on defense, then they are not making good decisions when they win the ball back, or it's just a deflection, or it's just a header clearance back to us. Tierna Davidson played a good ball forward, and it's like you have to
split the whole
keep up this wave after wave after wave of attack. And I do think that we didn't start the urgency. Remember, we're climbing out of this hole. We need to score 2 goals, not just one. We can't wait till the last 5 minutes. And I think we might have waited a little too long to have that urgency. We were recycling the ball around the back a lot. And it's fair. Like I am not saying that we should just boot it up. I think what I'm saying is, to your point, let's get the ball to Alyssa, to Jenna, to carve up down the side, get some crosses in. I think there were a few times we got into a crossing position, we circled it all the way back around.
Yeah.
And that's a great game plan when the game's tied or you're up a goal, because it's exhausting the other team. But I feel like when you need 2 goals, we needed to start with that urgency a little bit sooner. So generally, I just felt like the last, maybe minute 70, we needed to see that urgency. So there were a few, closer chances towards the end of the game. I think the last 10 minutes, we were kind of on the edge of our seats. Like, is this going to happen? There was a few set pieces. There was like a questionable offside call with Jenna.
Yeah, were definitely not offside. Definitely not offside.
I know. So not questionable. We're certain she was not offside.
I'm certain.
We're certain, everybody. Anything of note did you think in those last 10 minutes that we could have done better, that you noticed, that stood out to you?
I think, like you said, when Alyssa did try crosses, I would have liked to see Jenna whip some crosses in, more crosses. But I think that comes from, especially when you're impact players in this game, if you start earlier, then those crosses that go behind the goal, or when you decide to cut inside, you have a little more time to be like, next one, I'm putting it in. Next one, I'm just going end line, seeing what happens. But when it starts to be a little bit later, and that pressure of like, okay, if we lose it, then it's going to take more time. So let's keep the ball. Like, there's that whole mental game going on, that battle. So I think also it's up. We don't know what Emma was saying in terms of when you go on, is it now like, is there more urgency, or is it like, go take them on every single time? Like, we don't know what the message was.
Or swing it around 3 times before you cross it. We have, maybe that was the
so we don't know, or look to cut in and try to find, like, so I'm not sure, but I did like seeing Heaps, Biandolo in the box more, because every time the ball's in the air, especially, I mean, Lindsay Heaps, bless her, like, she goes into every
her poor facial region, but also the Japan
oh my gosh, Kumagai, I know, with the I know
that was just terrible. I did not wish that upon anybody, especially her. But yes,
I wanted to see more crosses. I wanted to see more crosses. Not
too.
More collisions, but I wanted to see more crosses, because I think the US is so dangerous in the box.
And I think that is a pro for having Lindsay Heaps in the 10.
Yes.
Like, I'm not convinced yet on the player profiles of Lindsay and Kat together in that 9-10. I definitely could be wrong about that. But I do like having Lindsay in the 10 when we are serving crosses. There was even a few chances earlier in the game where, when we're playing like a deeper cross to Lindsay running in late, Lindsay's so dangerous at that. And when she's playing in a pivot, like in the 6 or even in an 8, she has less opportunity to get in the box, but Lindsay is a goal scoring threat getting in there. So
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I just think we didn't take full advantage of it today. So basically, the game ends 2-1 Japan. As we have said, huge credit to the Japanese team. They looked incredibly dangerous all tournament. And they withstood Allie and I have been saying we weren't really aggressive enough at the end, but the last 10 minutes were very aggressive. Japan withstood that from the US team.
Yeah, Tierna had a great shot. That was Tina, right?
Oh my God. She has
a great save. Really good save.
I know. I know. I do think Japan deserved to win the tournament, and I think Japan is looking like a top team over the next few years. What did they excel at most this tournament?
At the precision, at the passing, the first touch, the one time the keeper, it started to get a little dicey. And I was wondering, as when they're winning and even when it was tied, when they're playing these small passes in the box, is someone eventually going to, usually no, they still found a way to pass out. But finally in the second half, the keeper launches one to halfway. Tanaka just outside the foot, boop, and then goes past two players. Like, that is just the skill. That is what we love about the Japanese national team. That is what we love about this style of play. And they brought that plus this new kind of lethal speed and counterattack and a little more
directness.
Yes. And it's like efficiency. They're so much more efficient. I mean, in the number of goals they scored, it's just, it's very impressive.
It really is. And what I will say, I think this match was what a lot of people came into this tournament expecting for the US. Like, I'll say the US women's national team wants to win and expects to win every single game. But we are in a building phase. Emma has made that very clear. This phase requires giving less experienced players more time on the field. And I think that even though we lost to Japan, this whole tournament is so valuable. This is valuable for Emma to learn about these players. It's valuable for these players to go through this experience, for this whole team moving forward. I'm thinking so much about these young players. They are kind of the headline in all of our storylines. Lily Johannes, Yasmin Ryan, Tara McKeown.
Oh, she was excellent. Yeah.
What are those players taking away from this experience? Getting real minutes in a real tournament for the U.S. women's national team. What are they leaving with as they go back to their club teams?
I think one major thing is that this is wide open. Like, anything can happen between now and 2027. And like you say, the US wants to win. Players want to play every game. You want caps, you want experience, you want goals, you want it all, right? You want money. But what do you want to be starting 2027, and you want to be lifting the World Cup trophy? And so I think that these players should be like, anything is possible for me, because that is genuinely the truth. And what Emma is allowing them to feel, that if you bring yourself, like, she's not saying, Alyssa, you need to play like her, and Yasmin, you need to play like her, and Trinity's not here, so try to be her. Like, no, you see each player, they have this confidence, they're bringing their own special talents and their game to this national team. And I think it's so cool and so exciting for us to watch. We already said it's an edge against against the opposition, but I think just the promise and the hope, and I think going into the NWSL season now, which so many of them are, they should be feeling so confident. And look where the game is, and the sponsorships and the deals and the salary caps change, like everything. And so I think it's just such an exciting time for them. And I really like how Emma has given them that confidence for leadership, for, just being themselves and opportunity. And it's going to be really interesting to see who makes the roster in April. Like,
oh my gosh, I know. I feel like Emma also probably has like more players up her sleeve that she's like, yeah, I'm really interested in seeing 10 more players. And we'll be like, oh my God, what? Is there one of these kind of newer players that stood out to you this tournament that you're like, she's for sure going in April?
I really liked Lily Johannes. Like, I was impressed with her before, but just that level of composure.
I know.
And the balls, the texture of the passes, like, that is finesse. And then her size, and just, that is like, wow, her size and just how she can strike a ball. And so I'm really excited to see more of her. And I would think that Emma really wants to see how she can fit into this. And I was also really impressed by Yasmin Ryan. I think the ball she played, when the US played into space, I really saw things come alive. And so you saw that ball, that huge switch that she played. And I just think the vision of some of these players, and they're just getting started. And so that's like with even more confidence, with even more experience, with even more collaboration and understanding how the players alongside of me work. I think that's, those two players I'm really excited about. But again, we didn't see Michelle Cooper tonight. And I mean, she's a huge talent. So but obviously Giselle.
The Thompsons, love them. I really want to call out Allie Setnor. Everybody knows here I'm like the biggest Allie Setnor fan in the whole world.
Good.
She's a ton of potential. But what she demonstrated at this tournament, she had a goal contribution every single game. So she's ready to be at this level. We got this stat from OptiJack today. Allie Setnor is the 6th player to contribute to a goal in all 3 matches in a single edition of She Believes. Alongside, and listen to this list, Tobin Heath, Kristen Press, Lindsay Heaps, Alex Morgan, and Mal Swanson. And it's like,
that's good company.
Add that to the list, Allie Setnor. We've got a future legend on our hands. So yes,
absolutely. She's in. I was like, that's
that one's obvious. I do need an Allie Setnor jersey. I'm very, very excited about it. Allie, did you know that she is from my hometown of Hanson, Massachusetts?
No.
I bring this up. Call me out in the chat, everybody.
How did you wait that long to tell me that?
Because I literally bring this up, Ellie, every 5 minutes. Everybody in the chat is going to be like, Sam, shut up. We know. I love that girl. She is from my hometown, Hanson, Massachusetts. Love you, everybody. Okay. Guys, I'm so excited. We are going to talk to our callers. Okay. We've reached the part of the show where we get to hear from you, our listeners. So to join us here live on YouTube, remember, scan the QR code in the top left of your screen, or you can click the pinned comment in the chat. You'll go into a Zoom with our producer, Tony. Tony will tell you everything you need to know. You're not coming up on screen. It's just audio. If you don't want to ask a question, please give us a like. It helps us more than you know. Okay. I'm about to start calling names. When I call your name, remember to take yourself off mute, tell us where you're from, and then ask your question. And Avery, Allie, Avery has called into all of our TWG Live.
Thank you, Avery.
This tournament, and she's back, and I think it's pretty late for her. So Avery, take yourself off mute. How's it going?
Good. My question is, what is a random hobby you would like to have, and who do you think deserved MVP of the tournament?
What's a random hobby that we'd like to have?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Allie?
I would like to get into candle making. I spend a lot of money on candles, and I think it would be really cool to make some myself. And find some cool vessels, like maybe some wooden bowls, and make candles. So if I get into that, Sam, I'll send you one.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And Allie Setnor from Sam's hometown is my MVP.
I love that. That's a great answer. My random hobby, I am actually dipping my little toes into a lot of different hobbies, but one that I have not done yet, I have this vision where I want to take old glass bottles. Avery is under 21, but they are wine bottles, and cut them and make repurposed like glassware. And I want to make sets of 4 that like match. But like it requires, a sander and a glass cutter and et cetera, et cetera. And so I haven't done it yet.
You can get that on Amazon. I dabbled in that. Super easy.
You did dabble in it.
I did.
And you know what?
Highly recommend. And I can make candles.
Use those vessels to make a candle. And then Avery, I also did cheat because I do know who won MVP, and it was Mina Tanaka, who scored 4 goals for Japan in this tournament. An amazing tournament. I think she was incredible. So I'm going Mina Tanaka, and I'm also going right along with who actually won it. So a little bit of cheating. Avery, do you have a hobby that you're interested in getting into?
I think podcasting would be cool.
Wow.
Avery, oh my gosh.
Great
okay.
answer.
You're going to have to come to podcasting camp. Avery, thank you so much for calling in. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Avery. I hope you get some sleep soon. Okay, up next, Josie, can you take yourself off mute, tell us where you're from, and ask your question? Hi, Josie.
Josie's on a vacation.
Josie unfortunately has left us. She had to go to sleep. Maheen, can you take yourself off mute? Maheen. Oh no, Allie. Everybody seems to be going to bed. Vicky, are you there? Can you take yourself off mute?
Hi, I'm still here. I'm so excited to talk to you both. I'm such a huge fan.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Vicky. We're so excited you're here.
I'm like a day one listener. I will listen to like any word that comes out of your mouth. First time caller though.
Okay,
Me too, Vicky.
Vicky, how many times do you think I've said that Allie St. Nora is from Hanson, Massachusetts?
About a bajillion times. I was actually shocked that the last time on the last podcast you talked about Allie Sentnor and you didn't mention her that
I
she was from
know,
Hanson. I was
I
like,
know.
oh my gosh, where did Sam go?
It wasn't me. It was an alien takeover. Okay, Vicky, where are you from and what's your question?
I'm from SoCal, but I'm currently studying at UC Santa Cruz.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of like all the West Coast NWSL teams. And Allie, heartbroken for you that you're off the pitch right now with Angel City, but I hope to be able to see you back out there.
Thank you so much. Me too. I hope to meet you at a game.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Vicky, do you have a question for us?
I do. I had a question sort of for each of you, and Sam a little bit. You've been talking about this, and Sam kind of stole my question for Allie, but it's okay. I'll ask it anyway. And so my question for Sam is: I've heard like of like just fans on social media and like media, like writers, talking about some of the similarities between Lily Johannes and actually like your style of play. And so without getting too like deep into the comparison, obviously I'm curious like maybe what like similarities you see there, or like to what extent like, or what like elements of truth do you see in that assessment? And Allie, you already kind of talked about this, but like, is there a player you played with or against in NWSL, maybe with the U.S. national team or any of the other teams that we've seen in the SheBelieves Cup? Maybe some of like the newer or like less experienced players that you've been especially impressed by.
Okay, I'll let Sam go first.
Or maybe you can just gush about the Thompson sisters if you want. You can talk about whoever you want to.
Okay. Let me think.
Thank you so much, Vicky. That is so sweet. I would be so over the moon and honored to hear that anybody thinks that I have any similarities with Lily Johannes. I need to just remind everybody that she is only 17 years old, and the potential that she's showing is far and away above mine. So I'm super excited to watch her. I think that oftentimes that kind of 6, 8, 10 position midfielder is really focusing on, like Allie brought up earlier, those textured passes, being able to distribute the ball really well, having that vision, being two-footed. But Lily is also showing signs, especially with her club team Ajax, that she can score from distance and understands when to take a shot and understands when to play that final pass. So I am super excited about Lily. I'm definitely a big fan, and I hesitate to compare us as players, but I will take the note as a compliment. And then Vicky, I know your question for Allie was about what newer national team players that she knows from NWSL really impress her. So Allie, I'll let you answer that one.
Well, we talked about so many good ones. I do want to go back to talking about Michelle Cooper, because I think she had a really, really good season last year. And obviously Kansas City has a very, very good team, and it would be hard to stand out, I think, on that team as a young player. And I just think how she developed over the last season into being just this threat. And I think she is very versatile. And I was really thrilled to see her score that goal. I think it just shows the depth and the choices that Emma has. And it would be so hard when you're seeing players excel in the league and you want to reward them and bring them in. And then you have established players in the national team who, of course, are doing really well. And so, again, I wish we had that for New Zealand. I'm like, where are the Kiwis here? But I also want to shout out Hagawa on the Japanese national team. Not a super young player, but she was my favorite player to watch, I think, this tournament, with just how her movement and her passes, and just she could wriggle out of any space. And I'm really excited to see so many Japanese players now come to the NWSL, because I think we talked about how it's like the style of the national team is like maybe taking some influence from a more direct, and the US players are going to Europe. Like there's just this movement. And I think now we have 3 Japanese players on Angel City. And when you have Tanaka and Utah, like you have this top talent that we're not used to seeing week in and week out in this league now coming here. And I think once you have a couple players be really successful, and like June is just, you know, our hero here at Angel City, and they're going to keep coming. And so it's really cool how this league is going to evolve with African players, with Japanese players. And this is exactly what we want. We want the best talent coming to this league. It's just funny that then American players are leaving, but they're going to come back.
I think so too. Vicky, thank you so much for those questions. Those were amazing. Allie, I loved your answer. We are going to try Maheen one more time. Maheen, if you're there, can you take yourself off mute?
Are you still there?
Yes. Hi, Sam and Allie. My name is Maheen. I'm a huge fan of the podcast, and of course, the BFFR show. Had to shout it out.
Yes, thank you.
My question is, you've both experienced so many stages in your career, from youth soccer to college, club, the national team, and I guess, Sam, for you now, podcasting and post-soccer life. How has your definition of success evolved along the way? Sorry to get you thinking at 1 a.m.
Oh my goodness. What an incredible question. You know what I was literally just talking to somebody about today was the idea of, and it's super interesting to bring this up now, the idea of having to like kind of reinvent yourself. And I think that I was so devastated to not get to keep playing soccer that I was really scared of what was next. And I think that how I defined success in that time was like, well, when I get back on the field, that will be success. And I think it's taken me a long time coming to this realization that like what I have been trying to build and do since, you know, reaching this point in the road where I could no longer play, what I have built with my team here at TWG is a new version of success that I didn't really understand before, that I didn't necessarily like think was success. I thought this was like separate, but I think that I have found a new purpose and found myself wanting this to grow and wanting to be great at this and wanting to like really connect with the fans and, you know, make this as good as it can be. And so success has evolved to a totally new definition that I would have ever thought before. And it's so funny you asked me this now, because I feel like I just recently have been thinking about this and figuring this out. So I'm really grateful for that question, Allie. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I've been thinking about it a lot too. You asked this question to 2 injured gals here. So I think that is part of a career when your team change, your role changes. If you have an injury, like you have to find a way to give yourself this chance to still feel success and feel happy and feel like you're accomplishing your goals. And so for me, I think, especially with being in a lot of pain recently and having a tough time with this injury, feeling like myself is the success now that I'm aiming for. So I know that's this measurement of, if I am in so much pain or I'm so frustrated, and then I'm probably too focused on soccer and coming back, and I'm measuring success and like if I ever come back to play again, which is so unfair to myself because it's totally out of my control. And so then I know I need to take more time. I need to breathe. I need to dial back a little bit and spend time with my family and with Lucas, my new husband, and do things like being on a show with one of the people that I admire most, Sam Mewis, and do things that I really enjoy and where I can be myself. And so that is, I always want to make sure that I'm true to her. And that might be playing soccer. It might not be. And so that is right now what I'm channeling. And that was such an amazing question, because I need to be reminded of that.
I know.
Otherwise, like you kind of get into a dark place and just put so much pressure on things that are totally out of our control.
Allie, Maheen, first of all, incredible question. Thank you so much for calling in with that. And Allie, I totally agree. I even think that being reminded of it, but also talking about it with each other, but also
Yes.
with all of these listeners here, I think it's so valuable to share. I know we're constantly reminded that social media is a highlight reel, and players are going through hard times sometimes, and being able to be open about how sad some moments are and how difficult it is to kind of have to imagine doing something else. It means a lot to be able to open up to this community like that. So, Allie, thank you for your vulnerability. Maheen, thank you for such a wonderful question. Everybody who's here, we're all in this together now. So I hope you all are planning on being a part of this. So I'm so grateful everybody could call in. I feel like that is such a great question to end on. We literally couldn't make this show without you all who are here right now. So we're really grateful to everybody who takes the time to call in. Allie, last question for you while we still have you here. Just a quick update on Angel City's preseason. Like, what are you thinking? What can we expect from this team?
Well, I'm so excited. I feel a lot of positivity and excitement, and there's a lot of change going into the season. New ownership, a lot of new players. We have an interim coach, but eventually a new coach. And I just think, I mean, we saw Miyabi playing, and just some very exciting players on the international stage. Obviously, Claire Emsley always kills it with Scotland. So those players have been gone. And in the meantime, we've had some trialists who have been killing it. We have Kennedy Fuller is such an amazing young talent, and she's
I think so too.
I mean, whoa, like she already was really good in what I'm seeing from her this preseason. And then Kristen, healthy, she's getting her flow. Her vision, and I mean, it's Kristen Press. We know how good she is, but you're seeing her look like herself. And then Megan Reid scoring for Canada. Like, I just think players are coming into this preseason. Last year was tough. Let's just call it what it was. It was really, really hard. And so I think players are feeling really optimistic. And with Mark Parsons coming in with a vision, and we know he has a lot of experience, he knows all the opposition, he knows talent. And so, yeah, I think that there is a lot of hope for what a new Angel City could look like, and beyond the resilience and the grit and kind of what we've dealt with as this startup and had these challenges thrown at us. I think it's like, let's get the soccer side of this club to match the branding, to match that home game experience. Let's put that work in on the field and put on a show that matches the excitement you feel when you're in BMO Stadium with all these amazing people and the vibes, the inclusivity, and this incredible club. And the players are determined to bring that this season.
I love hearing you talk about Angel City. I am really excited for you all. Very last question, I promise. When can we expect a new episode of BFFR?
So, there are things in the works. I cannot leak it right now, but let's just say that very soon you will be hearing from us a lot more consistently and frequently. In fact, you will probably be sick of us, because we will be on your screens and in your ears more than we were last year. So what's the
best place for everybody, if anybody doesn't know yet, what's the best place for people to follow along?
Okay, so at BFFR Show is our Instagram, where we post very unhinged content. We also have
you and your Angel City teammate, Sydney LaRue.
And then you can also go to bffrshow.com. We have some merch. You can check out the podcast there. Yes, more BFFR merch. We're working on it. But honestly, we just love, just like you're saying, the community and being able to share our experiences. It's a really important part of being an athlete, being a woman in sport. And yeah, it's been an amazing outlet, an amazing platform for me, especially during this injury. So I feel like you and I kind of, you feel me.
I do. I definitely feel you. I definitely feel you. Well, anybody listening, if you do not follow BFFR Show yet, you should. It is the highlight of my day every single time a new episode comes out. It is so funny and so great. It is the best of Allie and Sid. Allie, thank you so much for being here with us. This was truly such a blast. I had an incredible time with you, and I'm not even tired, everybody. Coming up next for TWG, we have an episode of Friendlies dropping tomorrow morning with Crystal Dunn. Crystal and I got to chat about her move to PSG, and I loved hearing her perspective on all these U.S. Women's National Team players going abroad. All of our podcasts are available here on YouTube and on our podcast feed. That's wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow along across all of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok, at Women's Game MIB. You can even send us an email at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. I promise I read most of the emails and I like to answer people. We read them a lot on the show. So please send us an email. I would love to hear from you. Huge thanks again to Allie Riley for being here with us tonight. Allie, this was seriously so much fun.
Thank you for having me. It was truly an honor. I was telling everybody.
Oh my gosh. I'm so honored. Thanks to all of our callers. Thanks to the whole team here at TWG and MIB. This is it, everybody. I'm Sam Mewis. This is the Women's Game. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you soon.